Hello, Vikings fans. Welcome to Skol Nation Vikings Daily, your go-to source for all things Minnesota Vikings. Today, we're diving into a compelling comparison between the current state of the Dallas Cowboys defense, led by none other than former Vikings head coach Mike Zimmer, and how the Vikings are faring under defensive coordinator Brian Flores. But there's more. We'll also break down some key defensive statistics from both teams up to this point. So stay tuned for insights that are sure to spark serious debate among Vikings Nation. All right, let's get to the big question. Did the Vikings make the right call in moving on from Mike Zimmer? After all, Zimmer was a central figure in shaping the Vikings' identity for 8 seasons, from 2014 to 2021. He led the team to 2 NFC North titles and a memorable run to the NFC Championship in 2017. However, following 2 consecutive losing seasons in 2020 and 2021, the franchise decided it was time for a new direction. And that's where Kevin O'Connell stepped in. Before we dive into Zimmer's current situation with the Dallas Cowboys, it's important to remember the context of his time with the Vikings. Zimmer's history of success in Minnesota set a high bar, creating expectations that he could replicate or even exceed those results elsewhere. So was it the right move? Well, if you take a look over at how Zimmer's defense is performing with the Dallas Cowboys this season, it's hard not to feel confident that the Vikings made the right call. Zimmer, who returned to the NFL this year as the Cowboys' defensive coordinator, is struggling to recapture the magic he had with the Vikings in years past. Through the first 6 games of the season, Dallas has allowed 28.0 points per game, ranking them 3rd worst in the NFL. For a defensive guru like Zimmer, this is surprising, especially when you remember how stout his defenses were during his tenure in Minnesota. But it's not just points. They're giving up a lot of yards, too. The Cowboys are surrendering 356.5 yards per game, including 143.2 on the ground, which is the 7th most in the league. The Cowboys' defense hit rock bottom in a 47-9 blowout loss to the Detroit Lions at home. It was their worst defensive performance of the season, allowing 492 yards of total offense, the most they've given up in any game this year. And unfortunately for Zimmer, this wasn't an isolated incident. Earlier in the season, the Cowboys allowed 44 points to the New Orleans Saints in a 44-19 loss, giving up over 430 yards of offense. Meanwhile, back in Minnesota, Brian Flores has taken control of the defense, and the results couldn't be more different. The Vikings have quietly put together a top 15 defense, allowing just 330.2 yards per game. What really stands out is their dominance against the run, holding opponents to a mere 67.2 rushing yards per game, the 2nd fewest in the league. Even though they've struggled a bit against the pass, giving up 263.0 passing yards per game, they're making up for it with big plays, leading the league with 11 interceptions and racking up 20 sacks, which is the 3rd most in the NFL. This contrast between the Vikings and Cowboys' defenses suggests that Minnesota's decision to move on from Zimmer was the right one. Kevin O'Connell has brought a new energy and vision to the team, and Flores' defensive approach is proving effective, even as the team works through its challenges in the secondary. There's no doubt Zimmer is a brilliant defensive mind, and we shouldn't be surprised if he eventually turns things around in Dallas. But as things stand, the Vikings are trending in the right direction, and that's something we can all be excited about. So, Vikings fans, what do you think? Was the decision to move on from Zimmer the right one, or do you think the team could have stuck with him a little longer? And what are your thoughts on Zimmer's performance with the Cowboys so far? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, share your thoughts on the season so far. We're eager to hear your predictions and expectations for the rest of the year. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, Skol Vikings.